Financial leadership is changing. CFOs no longer record history. They make history. This podcast will help you become a better leader, strategic thinker, and digital visionary. Welcome to Secrets of Rockstar CFOs, the ultimate podcast for chief financial officers. Follow along as Jack McCullough engages in exciting chats with accomplished CFOs, learning how they overcame obstacles and positioned their companies for the future. Here's your host, Jack McCullough.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secrets of Rockstar CFOs. I'm your host, Jack McCullough. You can follow us online at rockstarcfos.com. We have a great guest today, so let's get to it. Rock on. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Secrets of Rockstar CFOs. We have a great guest today, really accomplished, and he's one of the few CFOs that I've ever met who's been in his role for about a quarter of a century. So there's going to be some great insights on that. Brian Miller is the CFO of Tyler Technologies. Tyler Technologies is a provider of software and technology services to the public sector. Brian, welcome to the Secrets of Rockstar CFOs.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, you and me both. So Tyler Tech, public company, good size, but I suspect maybe not a household name to my audience. I think you could share the 10,000-foot view on Tyler?
Sure. Yeah, we're a little bit under the radar because partially because of the market we serve, but we're actually bigger than most people realize. So Tyler, as you said, provides software and services for the public sector, exclusively for the public sector. High level, we're about just a little over $2 billion in revenues. Market cap today's around $24 billion. We provide a very wide range of mission critical software applications that sort of power all the back end functions of government, really at all levels, mostly local government, but we also serve state governments and the federal government. So we provide things like property tax systems, financial systems, 911 systems, courts, jails, land records. So really kind of anything that runs the back office of government. We're by far the largest provider in what is a very, very fragmented market. So we have the biggest customer base and the broadest set of products and this very, very focused set of solutions for government. So everything we do is about the public sector, and we've been doing it for a very long time, and think we're pretty good at it.
Yeah, well, no, that's great. And that has to be, just when you think of how many towns and municipalities there are just in the United States, it's obviously a huge market. So, but cool. And we'll get back to Tyler in a little bit. But before we get into it, I'd love to just have the audience learn a little about you. So where did you grow up, Brian?
I grew up in San Antonio, Texas. I was actually born in Ohio, but as we like to say here, I got to Texas as fast as I could. So grew up in San Antonio and went to college at Texas A&M.
When did you move to San Antonio?
Oh, middle school.
Okay.
So in middle school.
So is Texas like Massachusetts? If you weren't born there, you're considered an outsider? Like I know people that moved there, went to Massachusetts when they were 2. And people still treat them like they're an outsider, which is crazy, right?
Not so much. I think Texas is pretty welcoming. We have especially today, we have a lot of people moving there, and Texas is a pretty welcoming place. So I'll claim myself as a Texan, even though I wasn't quite born here.
Fair enough. So, and did you grow up with a lot of brothers and sisters?
I grew up with one brother, younger than me, and 2 half sisters that were older than me. So, and there was a pretty wide age gap between the 2 older sisters and my brother and I.
Oh, cool. So, and I noticed you studied business at Texas A&M, and perhaps accounting, but obviously that turned out to be a pretty good choice for you when I look at your career path. But what was it to the 17-year-old Brian Miller that found business as an interesting career option? Yeah,
I think I was good with numbers. I think I just liked the idea of business and maybe the organization. I actually thought I was going to be a lawyer. So when I started out, I thought business and accounting in particular would be a good foundation or a good base for pre-law. And so that was really my intention as I went to college and went through college, and intended, kind of was thinking corporate law But that was sort of my focus. I was president of the Pre-Law Society at A&M, but really kind of as I went through it, I really grew to like accounting a lot. I also thought that maybe it'd be a good time to take a little break and work for a while before I went to law school. So I was accepted at law school, but decided to defer my admission and work for a couple of years in public accounting, and obviously never went back. So I think I'm happy with the choice I made. Our CEO actually he describes himself as a reformed lawyer. So he is a lawyer. So we've taken interesting paths to kind of get to the same place. But that was what I thought I was going to do, and changed my mind while I was in school.
Well, it appears like it was a series of really good decisions. So, and out of college, your first job was at EY, although was it Ernst and Winnie when you joined?
I was on the Arthur Young side.
So, Arthur Young. I'm sorry. Okay.
And I left, I think a year or two before they merged. So there were still 8 back then. It was still the big 8, and I was on the Arthur Young side.
Yeah, I when I talk to young people, they still not sure that they completely believe me that it was once the big 8, and they were dynastic for decades.
Yeah,
I was with at the time Pete Marwick and Mitchell, which of course you and I know is KPMG today. Yeah. But yeah, so what was that experience like? You had a good run. You put in 6 years there. What were some of the important things that you learned along the way that set yourself up to be a future CFO?
Yeah, public accounting was a great start. It's, I mean, you learn an awful lot. You get a lot of responsibility early. After your first year, you're supervising other first-year people, and your second year, you're supervising more people. And so you learn management. You learn to interact with a lot of people. You're dealing with clients and talking to CFOs and managers in your client companies. So you learn a lot. It was interesting. I went to work in the Dallas office, which was one of the bigger offices. We had, I don't know, 40 or so probably in my class. And so you kind of start with sort of a ready-made group of people, kind of like a fraternity, the people that are kind of the similar background to you and all starting at the same place, generally moved there from somewhere else. So you sort of have a ready-made group of friends or peers, and I'm still very good friends with most of the people that I started with, and keep up with each other even this many decades after that. So it's a really good learning ground. I know from our interaction with our auditors today, that industry has changed an awful lot, but and I'm not sure it's as much fun as it may have been back then, but great learning experience, especially about the amount of responsibility they give you really early. We didn't have all the technology then that the auditors use today. So, it was a lot of 14 column paper and red pencils, but it's a great basis to start. But after 6 years there, I was in audit after being a manager for a year or so. I figured out that wasn't where I wanted to spend, the rest of my career. So I started thinking about moving into industry.
Yeah, it's interesting your experience. I was going to make a joke about I started in with Pete Marwick and Mitchell. We used stone tablets, and the quill pens were considered a technological innovation. But it's the current audit profession is almost unrecognizable to me in some ways in terms of just how technologically advanced it's become.
It really is. It's changed so much, and then with all the pressures from the PCAOB and regulators, it's a very different industry today.
Yeah, it sure is. And so you left after about 6 years, and then you went to work for an airline. And I'm curious what that was like.
I did, and that was fascinating. I had spent a little bit of time on the American Airlines audit when I was at AY, and found that to be a really, really interesting industry. And an opportunity arose to go to work for a regional airline, Metro Airlines, which was a public company at the time, and had just moved its headquarters from Houston to Dallas, and was looking for a controller. And so I knew somebody who knew somebody there, and interviewed for it, and decided to make the jump into the airline business. And just a fascinating industry, really tough industry, but another great learning experience. And really enjoyed my time there, but and progressed from controller to eventually become CFO there, and spent, I guess, a little over 10 years there.
But yeah, you mentioned it being a tough industry, and Like I remember like when the first big airline went bankrupt and that within my conscious memory, it might have been TWA. I'm not really sure, but like they hadn't turned a profit in like 26 years or something like that. And it was remarkable that, it's an industry and that wasn't uncommon that airlines would lose money year after year. I think Southwest might have been the first one that was consistently profitable, right?
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of characteristics that just make it tough. It's capital intensive. Obviously, the equipment, the aircraft themselves. It's dependent on commodities. Fuel costs are one of your biggest costs. You don't control that. Usually, often irrational pricing. So, kind of your most desperate competitor sets the pricing for the industry, and everyone matches. You have unions. And it's very cyclical with either geopolitical events. I was there during the Gulf War, which threw the whole industry into a tailspin.
Oh boy, yeah.
So all those characteristics and really none of those apply to the software business. So when I changed, it was a complete opposite. But it was a great learning experience. Learned to deal with all of those kinds of problems. What you just referenced, if you've worked in the airline industry for any period of time, you've probably been through a bankruptcy, and I was. So after the Gulf War, Metro was a regional airline. At the time, most of those were sort of franchise arrangements with major carriers. And so we were the American Eagle carrier in Dallas-Fort Worth. We were Eastern Airlines, a name from the past, their partner in Atlanta and in the Caribbean, and we were TWA's partner in the Northeast, in New York and Boston. And two of those relationships were very problematic because Eastern and TWA both had major issues. And so those carried over to us. And so after Eastern went bankrupt, we also had a bankruptcy to restructure and restructure aircraft leases and union agreements and all those sorts of things that needed to change. So that was another really good learning experience as well. One that I wouldn't repeat, but only want to do that once, but it was an interesting experience.
Okay, hold on. So that sounds like that was a really fascinating 8-year run, and you decided to leave the airline industry and go to technology. I'm curious, how that positioned, how that became available.
Yeah, so Tyler was also undergoing a change and was just moving from its prior life as an industrial conglomerate into the software business. So Tyler had a big change of focus and had a change in leadership. The founder had retired, a new CEO, longtime board member had come on as CEO, and a guy named C.A. Rundell. And he had been an independent director on our board at Metro. And so they were looking for a finance leader. And that opportunity sounded interesting to me. CA knew me, and thought my background was a good fit, and I thought it was really interesting what the vision for Tyler was, and sounded like something I'd like to be a part of, and so I made the shift from the airline business to the software business.
Makes sense. And I'm guessing culturally the two companies were about as different as they could be, but what is the culture like over at Tyler Technologies?
Yeah, Tyler's got a really interesting culture that is really a core part of everything we do, whether it's acquisitions, internal growth. Maintaining our culture is really important to us. It's because we're sort of the product of a lot of acquisitions. We've done about 60 acquisitions during that time I've been at Tyler, which sounds like a lot, but it averages 2 or 3 a year. But we've really put the company together originally through a set of core acquisitions, and then supplementing our organic growth with additional acquisitions along the way. So it's really the collection of a lot of businesses that typically were very entrepreneurial. And even though we're a $2 billion plus company, we still try to maintain that entrepreneurial culture, very customer focused. So, which is typical of the kinds of businesses that became a part of Tyler. So a really deep focus on, really we talk about 3 legs of the stools: our customers, our employees, and our shareholders. And I think we have an equal respect and devotion to all 3 of those constituencies, but very inclusive culture. And we've worked hard to maintain that as we've grown over the years.
That makes sense. And on the subject of being inclusive, I want to give a little shout out to you. because just yesterday you made the Forbes list of the best places to work for female employees. And that's not the first time, if I have my facts straight on that. So I'd love to learn a little about that, how you do make inclusion a core value at your company.
Yeah, that's something that's really important to us, and it is one of our core values that we focus on, and especially in the tech business, where often it has historically been pretty male dominated, especially in the development side and some of the technical side of our business. And Tyler really goes out of its way to be inclusive, including to the female employee group. And we've got a number of programs. We've got a very active women's leadership network. Several of our C-suite members, our chief marketing officer, our chief HR officer, our chief legal officer are all females. And they're very active in helping mentor and provide opportunities. And it's something that we put a lot of emphasis on.
So, yeah, that's great. So kudos to you for doing that. And I want to explore also, because it's an interesting one. It's the first in any of the interviews I've done, but your relationship with the CEO, Lynn Moore. And since you know why I think it's interesting, but for the listeners, what's interesting about it, you guys have worked together for more than a quarter of a century, if I recall correctly. So what is your relationship with Lynn like? And you mentioned he's a reformed lawyer or a recovered lawyer, something like that. So
yeah, so Lynn and I started a year apart. Tyler, I started in late 97. He started in 98. Not in our current roles. I was the chief accounting officer at the time. He was the chief legal officer. We were both kind of one-man shows at the time in our respective parts of the company. I think our revenues then were probably less than $50 million. There was a point where our market cap was about the same, about $50 million. And so we've been here together through really all the growth of Tyler and have evolved into different roles. He worked very actively in our M&A processes, and then but he's a very sort of operationally focused lawyer, more of a business focused lawyer, and became a really close advisor to John Marr, who's now our executive chairman, but was a longtime CEO of Tyler. Learned a lot about the software business as I did along the way, and Lynn moved into the COO role. I moved into the CFO role, and then became CEO a few years ago when John stepped back to the executive chair role. So we've evolved in our roles, but have had a very close working relationship really through the whole time, from when it was obviously a much, much smaller company. And so I think we complement each other well. We obviously shared the company's values and the vision for the company. So yeah, Lynn and my role have really evolved over the course of 25 plus years. I think we complement each other well and have worked extremely well together. I think our whole team, we have a lot of our senior management team that has been there for 10, 15, 20 years. We all like each other a lot. We respect each other a lot, and have enjoyed the success of the company along the way. So we're all having a lot of fun, and expect to keep doing it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think 25 years, right? So you probably know Lynn as well as anybody else in your life, right? So, but
yeah, we have watched our families grow up, and all the things in our personal lives that have happened, and it's been a great relationship along the way.
No, that sounds great. And I want to touch upon, clearly you're a long-term guy. So I want to get an understanding, what's your relationship on building the finance and accounting team? How do you recruit, retain, motivate, upskill, those sorts of things?
Yeah, our team certainly has grown. I think when I started, there were about 3 of us on the finance team. And I think today there's probably close to 150 or so. My philosophy is always, hire the very best people you can hire. Every time you have to backfill a role or fill a new role, you want to be upgrading the talent. I think you should always try to hire people that are smarter than you. I know occasionally I've seen people, I encourage my team members to do the same thing, but I've seen people that are afraid to hire somebody smarter than them or better than them, that are insecure. But I always would rather have a whole team of people that are smarter than me and always thinking about kind of where their career paths can go and how they can have their succession plans in place. So always trying to strengthen our team as we go. And so I like to hire smart people, give them the tools they need, give them the responsibility and authority and the appropriate level of oversight and mentoring and let them run.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, it would be difficult for me not to hire people who are smarter than me.
I don't think it's too tough for me either, but I try to.
Pick people at random off the street. There's a good chance they're going to be. But it's interesting what you said, though, because like somebody taught me once that A players hire A+ players, and B players actually hire C players, just for the reason you cite that they're insecure and they don't want to hire a really smart person who might be capable of replacing them at some point, right? So, and everybody suffers, but you really need to focus on the greater good and hire the best talent you can, right? I mean, it's because it's not always the smartest person who leads the organization, nor should it be. So,
sure. I'd like to hire a lot of people that can replace me. So that's always my goal.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I want to chat a little about, your future thoughts on Tyler Technologies. And you've had some really impressive growth of late. So, what's the vision for, it's not even accelerating, but you've got a lot of momentum. What's your strategic vision for maintaining the momentum that you've got right now?
Yeah, we're fortunate that the market we play in, the industry we work in the public sector, provides a lot of stability. The public sector has a lot of needs, particularly around software. A lot of challenges facing the public sector as they try to do more with less and provide essential services to the public and provide a better experience for citizens. And we're there to help them do that. But there are a lot of needs there, and the public sector faces a lot of challenges. So with our sort of laser focus on the public sector, we've been able to develop this broad set of strengths that we bring to them and continue to build on that and build a really strong leadership position in this space. And our goal is to continue to do that. Our tagline is empowering the people who serve the public. And that's what everything we do is focused on. As we make acquisitions, we broaden our product line, add new capabilities, expand our TAM, and be able to provide more and more services and solutions to the public sector. So we continue, our vision and our strategy really is very similar to what it was 20 or 25 years ago when we embarked into this space. It's just a continuation of that. And we've been fortunate to be able to have very steady growth over multiple decades. And we just look to continue that. We continue to have an active M&A program, invest really heavily in R&D and internal growth as well. And that combination is what we want to continue to do for decades to come.
No, that's great. So, and one thing, technology is just changing business models. It always has, since early in our careers, but more so now than ever. So, how does Tyler stay ahead of the latest technologies, not only in terms of what you deliver to clients, but internally to make for the most efficient and productive workforce?
Sure. And we've evolved over time. So in the early days, Tyler looked more like a holding company that had acquired a lot of businesses. And over time, we've really put a lot of focus on what we today refer to as One Tyler, but really integrating both from a customer perspective, integrating our products so they work closely together and provide more value to customers who might have multiple products from Tyler. That those products, a court system and a public safety system, work seamlessly together, that they share data and workflows and create more value for the customer from having multiple products from Tyler, and being able to build on these relationships we have with roughly almost 40,000 installations of our products across 13,000 plus different cities, counties, schools, 8 government agencies. So building on those relationships is important to us. And so we invest very heavily in R&D. So we have really strong free cash flow, and we're able to put a lot of that back to work in the business. Also sort of fortunate in our space that generally governments aren't sort of on the leading edge of adopting new technology. So they're generally looking to us to show them the way and to show them how to use new technologies rather than just demanding the latest and greatest leading edge thing from us. So we have the benefit of a little bit of time to be able to be thoughtful about how to integrate new technologies into our products, how to bring that to our customers at a rate that they can absorb the change and kind of lead them down the path of technology. AI is a good example of that we're seeing today as we try to look at how we integrate AI both into our internal operations to become more efficient and how we integrate it into our products.
Good. I'm glad you brought up AI because I told your marketing folks that I'm legally required to ask you a question about AI to keep my podcast license. It does seem like I have to do it, but it's truly, I always thought the internet would be the biggest game changer of my career. That was probably the biggest innovation, I don't know, since TV or the car or something. I mean, it was that all changing, but it seems AI right in that category, right? Just in terms of how it's changing the way we do business.
Yeah, I think so. And you're certainly right. There's an awful lot of attention on it these days and conversation around it.
Cool. And you mentioned free cash flow, and you and I share the fact that we are CPAs, or at least we were at one point. I'm not sure if you've kept it up, but that's always an interesting thing because CPAs sort of like the conventional GAAP metrics, but you went to free cash flow. What are some of the other, non-GAAP ways you measure your company's performance?
Yeah, free cash flow is the biggest one. We had a investor day just about a year ago and sort of reset or established our mid-range and long-range targets for the company. We've been going through a cloud transition, so talking about technology and changes there. So we've migrated from or evolved from being a sort of an on-premise license-based software model to being a cloud-based subscription model delivery of our software. And that's been a multi-year evolution. Like with a lot of things, the government has been a little slower to embrace the cloud than the private sector. It's really had a pretty significant shift just in the last 3 or 4 years. And we've gone from being, 5 years ago, less than 50% of our business in the cloud to today, close to 90% of our new business in the cloud, and migrating our on-premise customers to the cloud. So, free cash flow and recurring revenues are kind of the biggest metrics that we've focused on as the best measures of our growth and the things that we're really focused on driving. So recurring revenues are now, I think, close to 85% of our revenue, which gives us, again, that really nice stability and driving really good free cash flow that we can then invest back into our business. We can make more acquisitions, continue to improve the things that we provide to our customers.
So, Brian, as I was prepping for this conversation, I did a lot of research, not only on you, but of course on Tyler. And one thing that just comes up over and over again is the strength of the culture and how it's essentially almost a competitive advantage for the company, much more so than other companies I've researched. And your role as the CFO, historically, CFOs weren't necessarily thought of as sort of the custodians of the culture. That's different. And I'm guessing in your case, because of your longevity with the company, much more so. So what is your role as the financial leader in maintaining such a robust culture?
Yeah, and it's really evolved over the years from 10 or 15 years ago, 20 years ago, just being the numbers guy and being strictly focused on numbers, but not as much on the operations. So to me, it's always been really important to build relationships, to know people throughout the company, whether they're in a operating unit of the company and a different corporate unit, but really building those long-term relationships and all of us as a management team having a lot of alignment on the vision, the mission, the values of the company, and all of us driving that not just through our own individual organizations, but really across the company. And we all try to have a lot of visibility with the broader employee group to spend time with employees outside of the finance organization and get to know those people, to get out of the corporate headquarters and spend time at our business units, and really just to be a good example of the kind of culture that we try to foster and be very visible with that.
Yeah, it's so critical because historically, there's always tension between finance and accounting and marketing. In fact, my first job, I shouldn't laugh because it's really not funny, but it is kind of funny. But, the marketing people called us bean counters, which Okay, that's all you've got. But my boss, who was, this was like the 80s, and he was even old school for the 1980s. He used to call marketing arts and crafts. And it was so hysterical. But the point is, like, neither group really valued what the other group was bringing to the table. And it's like, I wouldn't want to work in a company that didn't have world-class finance, nor would I want to work in a company where the marketing thing wasn't a strategic asset. It seems like you folks are very cognizant of this.
Yeah, I think there's a point in a prior place in my career where certainly the marketing people were viewed as the free spenders of the organization and sort of not to be trusted with the checkbook. But in Tyler is very different. They're definitely seen as a really important strategic asset, and we have a great marketing team and work very closely with them. And I think we also do that in a very cost-effective manner. But yeah, whether it's finance, IT, same thing with the IT guys. There's a lot of stereotypes about that, but we've got a world-class team, and have certainly made a lot of progress with improving our internal systems. There's a little bit of it's interesting. We provide world-class systems to our customers, but we've had a lot of work to do to build our own internal systems to support that business, and have made a lot of progress in recent years. Just went through an implementation of a new ERP system and done a lot of work there to provide us with the tools that we need to do our jobs well.
Yeah, no, that makes it. Yeah, IT is like the one group I would never anger. They can screw up your life worse than anyone else in the company can, I would think so. But cool. But I want to get your take now. Again, you and I both started in public accounting, great foundation, but the role of the CFO has changed. In fact, the tagline for this podcast is CFOs no longer record history, they make history. How do you see the role of financial leadership changing in the years ahead?
Yeah, I think it really has evolved from being, and will continue to evolve from being just about the numbers and about the accounting and the bean counting, to really being much more operationally focused on how you can help drive the business to achieve its goals. Much more of a partnership with both the CEO and the other C-suites, but also with the people that are operationally running the business. And that's how I've tried to build my role as a CFO at Tyler. And I think it just continues to evolve that way. I think you see a lot more non-traditional CFOs that came up not through the finance and accounting organization, but that came up through operations or engineering, and that have that organizational or operational focus. And I think if you came up through finance, you really need to build that operational focus to be effective in that role and to be an effective advisor and partner with the CEO.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So, and yeah, like at one point in my day job, I run an association for CFOs, the CFO Leadership Council. At one point in our early years, I'm going to say like 90% of the CFOs were CPAs. And while there's still a good number of them, I believe Spencer Stewart issued a report a few years ago. For the first time, there were more CFOs with MBAs than CPAs. And that just reflects the job is becoming more strategic. And by the way, when young people ask me which they should get the one that you like the most, they're both going to give you really rewarding career paths. So
exactly
in this space. So, but cool. So I want to ask a little about yourself. Do you, I know something about you, that you have a second home in Sun Valley and you are an avid skier. Am I correct in that?
I'm not as avid as I was several years ago, but still really enjoy skiing. Yeah, so we obviously can't do that in Dallas. A little flat where we live most of the time. So we've had a place in the mountains for a number of years, and really enjoy spending time there, both in the summer and in the winter. So one of the happy byproducts of COVID was that we learned that we can work effectively in other locations, at least part of the time. We've had a big focus on sort of how we build out our hybrid work environment at Tyler and adapting to flexibility. I am fortunate to have the flexibility to be able to work part of the time from a different location and enjoy being in the mountains and enjoy going down the hills and in the winter.
Yeah, it did occur to me. That was my follow-up question. How did a Texan become a snow skier, right? It's just, it's got to be one of the worst. Kansas and places like that, it's amongst the worst places to learn to ski. So,
Yeah, you've got to go somewhere. But
yeah.
yeah, the contrast and the variety is great. Yeah, we don't get the cold winters, so it's fun to be somewhere different and different scenery and different sport. So I've been skiing since college and really enjoyed it. I have slowed down over the years, and unfortunately, no major injuries or anything. And my wife and I also come to enjoy snowshoeing, which is a little bit more stable. So we have a lot of opportunities here to do that as well, and see more of the backwoods.
No, that's great. So, and which leads me to a question, because to me it's critical, and some do it well and some don't do it well. But you're a busy fella. You're CFO of a public company, which is a lot. You're also on the board of trustees for the 12th Man Foundation. And so how do you try your best to have it all, the family stuff, exercise, all those things? What's advice you have on the whole work-life balance thing?
Yeah, it's something you just have to kind of feel your way through over time. And I think hopefully I've done a good job of it. I believe very strongly in giving back and in doing things outside of just the business world, and giving back to causes that are important. So both my wife and I are involved in schools we attended, and in various charities that are important to us. And for me, Texas A&M is one of those things that's very, very important to me. And I've been fortunate to serve sort of in the middle of a term on the board of trustees of the 12th Man Foundation, which is the athletic fundraising arm of the university. And it's a good learning experience too. I've gotten to meet a lot of great people that I wouldn't have otherwise met. Hopefully bringing a little bit of my expertise to help the organization deal with some of the issues that are present in college athletics today, like NIL and need to raise capital. So those are things that I've got experiences from the work side that I can hopefully benefit the university through my experience. And so I really enjoy that, and it's important to make time to do those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, I understand you in Texas, you love your high school and college football and your pro football too. So, but
we do.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like a state religion up here. So yeah, we in Boston we follow professional sports, but we only follow our own teams pretty much. Like if the Patriots, Red Sox, Bruins, or Celtics aren't in the finals for their sport, the TV ratings in Boston aren't very good. But we had a nice little rivalry a few months ago between Boston and Dallas in the NBA
Exactly.
finals. So yeah, you've got a great team. I think you're going to be formidable for a few years to come. So maybe we'll see you back there in June.
Yeah, it's just the Cowboys that we need to get back on track after a few decades.
Yeah, well, there's rumors that if this isn't the year that Belichick fellow who had some pretty good success up here, he might be available. And I know he and Jerry Jones are very friendly. They may have difficult personalities working together, but you're getting the best football coach, if not ever, certainly of the current era. So
that would be an interesting combination to watch. It would probably be a show.
Yeah, it'd be worth it just to see those two clash for sure. But cool. But anyway, Brian, I always like to conclude this with any advice you might have for the next generation of CFOs, areas they should focus, skills they should adapt, whatever it might be, that helps maybe, the first time CFO, or even those people who are, 6 months to 2 years out from being a CFO.
I think for me, the biggest thing that you need to work on is really building relationships. I mean, I just think it's so important to build those relationships we talked about a little bit earlier throughout the organization, not just with your team and your boss, but really across the company. And that's, I think, been really valuable to me in my career, and something that I really encourage the people that work for me to do, to get to know the leaders and the workers in the business units, the operational side, software developers, professional services leaders, throughout the whole organization, and really build that operational focus, because you have to go beyond the numbers and really understand what drives the business, and what are the challenges that they're seeing, and ultimately how can you perhaps help them address those challenges. But without the relationships, you really can't do that. And so you really kind of have to get out of the silo, and that also means physically getting out there. So that's one of the things that concerns me. I mean, there are a lot of things about hybrid work or remote work that are attractive and that people really like. But especially as we've hired a lot of people in the last few years that were fully remote, that have spent very little time in an office, it really concerns me both and our company as a whole, from a cultural standpoint, that they're not getting, absorbing that culture and really getting the feel for it. You don't have the proverbial water cooler conversations, leaning over the cubicle and asking a question. And so you really got to go out of your way to make sure that you are building those relationships, and you're physically getting out. And Tyler is a very geographically dispersed company. We have offices all over the country, partially because we're the product of a lot of acquisitions. So you really have to make an effort to get out and not just be on a Teams meeting with someone, but to sit down with people, get to know them, get to know what they're about, what their challenges are. And those relationships are the most important thing as you try to advance through your career, and really have that deep understanding of your company and the challenges and the opportunities that and how you can help address all those.
No, that makes a whole lot of sense. So cool. That's fantastic advice for young people. And, even in the world of technology, and it's ubiquitous, but it just comes down to people and relationships, doesn't it? So
exactly. Yeah.
Well, Brian, thanks. I know you're busy, so I certainly appreciate your time, and, I'm grateful just for the opportunity to get to know you a little bit as well. I'd love to leave you with the final word.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure being here, and hope that your listeners find a little nugget of something that they find valuable and entertaining, and I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode. To continue your exploration of this role that focuses on strategy, leadership, finance, and technology, listen to more episodes of the show at rockstarcfos.com. Join this revolution, episode by episode. Push yourself to achieve great things and unlock the best opportunities available to you. CFOs are creating a legacy, and it's time for you to leave your own unique imprint on the world today. That's all for now. See you on the next one.